Hello, my name is Andrew Ward. I'm registered homeopath with the Society of Homeopaths. I've been in practice for over 26 years now. I've been trained at the College of Homeopathy in London and subsequently with Professor George Vithoulkas in Greece. I'd like to present the principles of classical Hahnemannian homeopathy as developed by Professor Vithoulkas. In his new book, The Levels of Health, Professor Vithoulkas has compiled the information and insight he has gathered over the past 50 years of practice concerning the relation between chronic and acute diseases and their impact on the defense mechanism. These insights were noted in the treatment of tens of thousands of patients over this period, and therefore this work represents one of the largest bodies of work ever accomplished in the history of homeopathy. Furthermore, out of these observations, he's been able to put together a model of health and disease, treatment and prognosis that is empirically based and therefore will stand the test of time. This is a model based on pure observation and one that builds on the accurate and correct application of Hahnemann and Kent's indications. This is the signature of a true developing science. The classification of this model is based on the idea first given in the science of homeopathy that the human organism has an energy complex or vital force, as Hahnemann put it, that is connected to the defense mechanism as a whole and to the immune system in particular. This energy complex is what represents the overall possibilities of how we react to any given situation, internal or external stimuli. Whether we are healthy or become ill at any given time wholly depends on the level of energy available. So we're all born within a certain level of this energy complex. In this case, this can be maintained or degraded throughout our lives. When we become ill, our potential and actual recovery depends on the relative levels or condition of this energy complex and the relevant condition of the defense mechanism. The better the level of energy complex, the stronger the defense mechanism, and therefore the clearer the disease picture or symptomology will appear. The organism has more energy to produce a reaction and so produce clearer symptoms of the remedy needed, which the well-trained homeopath can prescribe more easily. These are the cases that were seen often in the past on which homeopathy made its reputation. Unfortunately, however, in the last half-century, this situation has been changing and the general levels of health have been falling. And defense mechanisms have been compromised through the ever-increasing suppressive drug regimes and treatments. Therefore, the energy of patients in general is lower, which means an inability to react and less clear symptoms, which in turn makes it more difficult to find the correct remedy for the patient. In order to be able to tackle these cases of our modern era, we need to be clear about the patient's general level of health, the state of their immune system, the ability of their defense mechanism to react. The levels of health classification helps us to do this, to understand the patient's general condition and provides us with a map or guide to the possibilities in his or her case and the prognosis. It also then helps us to evaluate the patient's reaction to our treatment correctly, as this is where the majority of cases go wrong after the first or second prescription is given. So the idea is that each organism functions on a specific level of health. And in this model, Professor Vithoulkas has given us the parameters that define a given patient's level. The number of levels, of course, is unknown. However, for practical use, they've been divided into 12 levels and categorized into 4 groups of 3. Within this scale, the 12 levels of health are divided into 4 groups, the highest level being at the top. This depicts the genetic predisposition with which individuals are born and the strength of their defense mechanism. Patients in Group A, especially these are the upper levels, have a well-functioning defense mechanism and are in good general condition. They are without heavy hereditary predispositions As we descend the scale, we see the weakening of the defences, the stronger compromise of the immune system, and the tendency to develop more serious pathology increases. Also, the predispositions and miasms are more numerous and heavier. It is easier to treat patients, of course, in the upper levels, and the results are clearer and better. The lower the level, the more difficult the case becomes, with heavier pathology and less clear cases. In the upper levels, the conditions are more superficial in nature, such as mild headaches, colds, coughs, eczemas, rhinitis, sciaticas, and it takes fewer remedies to cure these. However, it's important to realize that any condition or pathology could appear in any level, but that the prognosis is different according to which level the patient belongs. This explains the occasional cases we see of serious pathology that can be cured with one remedy, or even indeed with a strict diet, for instance. And try as we may, we cannot help other similar cases. We see this in cases, for instance, of cancer with seemingly miraculous recoveries. Sometimes the case can be in an upper level and their prognosis is good. In the lower levels, it may only be palliative. So the model teaches us how to recognize these differences and allows us to see which cases belong to which category. It is worth noting that these concepts of levels are not fixed as in a diagram. This is a dynamic process, and thus we're all fluctuating in our energy throughout the day, and therefore our position within the same level can change also, from the upper to the lower position in a level. If our condition and our energy is suppressed too often and too aggressively, the balance cannot be maintained, and then our organism will fall back to the lower level. Then a new susceptibility may be triggered. For instance, somebody suffering from years of rhinitis may drop a level after using inhaled steroid sprays and develop recurrent bronchitis or even asthma. These are deeper and more serious conditions and represent a further compromise of the immune system. Also, we know that in order to recover this previous level of health and overcome the new condition, for instance asthma, the patient will have to return with the correct remedy to the original condition, the rhinitis. If this happens, we know that the direction is curative. In my experience, and the masters all teach this return of old suppressed symptoms has to happen in order for the patient to become really well. One of the greatest observations and insights that George Vithoulkas has made in relation to this model is the concept of the ability to produce a high fever as an indication of our level of health and the condition of our defense mechanism. This means the ability of our organism to react and produce an inflammation with a fever over 38.5 degrees Celsius. Firstly, this tells us which half of the levels we belong to, as by level 7 the organism is no longer able to produce these acutes with high fever. This indicates that the compromise is such that the organism has entered a subacute or chronic phase in its health. This may take some years to manifest, but it indicates that the process has started. Therefore, it is not a good sign when your patient who has come for chronic treatment gives you the information they've not had high fever for many years. However, if during your treatment they start to develop acutes with fever, then this is a very good sign. So this is truly a logical progression of the principle and ideas of Hahnemann, which are the accurate observation of the patient, taking of the case with respect to understanding their characteristic or peculiar nature, applying the single remedy according to the law of similars, the individualization of the case, and according to the accurate information from reliable provings, the correct potency and size of dose, correct evaluation of the case, and its progression in accordance with the laws of cure. So this model gives us the roadmap to navigate the difficult and winding road through the treatment of chronic health disorders. It's easy to become lost. With this information, we can be confident in our prescriptions and prognosis, and we can practice with consistency confidence and success. The results will then speak for themselves. To find out more about classical homeopathy, you can study online or attend courses with Vithoulkas.